Okay, so today we're going to do something that every car owner should know how to do without having to take it to the shop, and that is changing the oil out of your car. We're also going to do a little bit of maintenance and replace the air filter. So pop open the glove box and see what our owner's manual says. The owner's manual is a great resource because it gives you all of the information about your specific car, and you don't have to ask someone to double check because whatever the manufacturer sets and what they recommend will be in this book. What we're looking for is maintenance. And there's a record you can put in here and mark exactly when you did the required maintenance at what mileage. What I'm looking for is what every car manual should have. So this is going to be the maintenance schedule for my particular car. Everything should be very similar to your car. For example, replacing the engine oil, the oil filter, inspecting certain parts like the brakes and the idle speed. What's going to be different is the intervals and the time between my car and your car. So on my car, replacing the engine oil happens every 5,000 miles or 6 months, whatever comes first. Some cars may be 7,500, some may be 10,000. Mine is gonna be 5,000 or 6 months. The oil filter is gonna get replaced every 10,000 miles. So even when I do a 5,000 mile oil change, I can still keep that oil filter until I do another 5,000, and then we replace that. In this change, we're actually gonna do the oil filter and the oil because I have hit over that 10,000 mile mark. I haven't replaced my oil filter since I got the car. I put about 90,000 miles on there, and this says every 15,000 miles I should replace that. Even more if I use it in dusty conditions, which I don't. So we're gonna replace it today and start marking so that the next time I hit 15,000 miles, we can replace it on time. So it just shows you how useful these owner manuals can be. I didn't have to look up any information, and I know exactly what to do and when to do it. I have some just common tools here, a socket and ratchet so that I can remove the drain plug. I know exactly what oil to get. I'm using full synthetic 5W30, and you can find out in your owner's manual or by checking the cap on your car. My car says 5W30, so that's what we've been using since I got the car. That's what we're gonna put in it today. I also went the extra mile and got a Honda original oil filter. I just got it from the dealership, and a new crush washer, which we should replace every time we do an oil change. Make sure you have your parking brake engaged so that the wheels don't roll, and then after we jack up the car to a safe level, we're actually gonna put blocks of wood on the back tires, but make sure this is taken care of so the car doesn't roll while you're working under the car. We're gonna get our jack in place so we can lift the car up. Found a good strong piece of the frame. We're just gonna put the jack there and safely jack up the car. To further protect me and the car, we're gonna place some jack stands. The stand also extends a lot since these stands are very small and the car is lifted up as high as it is, so this may be because I'm overcautious, but what I like to do is put a brick. In this case, we need to jack up the car a little bit more. There we go, it's not extended that much. It's got more height. This may be something you don't have to do, but for me, it gives me more peace of mind, and I know that this guy is not going anywhere. So we've got 2 jack stands supporting the car. All we have to do now is apply the weight of the car on the jack stands and remove my jack. And don't forget to put our blocks of wood. Gone ahead and lowered the car, and I've placed blocks of wood on both rear tires, so this guy's not going anywhere. So we might already have a lot of things in place to protect ourselves while we're under the car, but last thing we have to do before we even trust going under the car, give it a good shake. Make sure it doesn't move around, make sure it's rock solid, and now I'm confident that we can go down there and get the job done safely. Before changing the oil out of the car, I allowed the engine to run up to operating temperature. You can let it run for about 15-20 minutes or until the fans turn on, and then after that let the engine cool for about 20 minutes. If you do this on a cold engine, the oil is thicker, so you might not get as much of the oil out as if you do it when it's a warm engine. Now you don't want to immediately turn the car off and do the oil change because then you're going to burn yourself with the oil. You'll get some out, but it's not going to be pleasant. This makes it a little bit more comfortable and ensures that I'm doing a proper oil change. Let's put a ratchet to it. Okay, under the car, I don't have a cover protecting the oil pan here. It's not like it's going to protect it much, but if you do, all you do is remove it, and then you'll gain access to the drain plug, which is right here on the back of the oil pan. Our oil filter, if we turn up a little bit on this car, It's right there. I don't find it a pleasant position because it's right over the right axle. The issue is when I take that oil filter off, one, my arm is outstretched, so the oil is going to flow down on my arm, and then also on the CV axle. On some model Hondas, you can get away with taking off the right passenger side wheel, and then from there gaining access on the right side. That doesn't solve the problem with the oil dripping down and covering the CV axle, so I'm going to put some paper towels there so that it doesn't just coat it in oil. I'm going to have to clean up a little bit, but it's going to be a little better if I put some paper towels now than if I clean up the mess later. This is a 17 millimeter. It's put on place, and we're just going to crack it loose. I put the oil pan at a slight angle because when this comes out, it's going to kind of shoot out. Just want to turn, it's coming out, and just get out of the way. So as you can see, it's coming out, and yeah, it's pretty black. We're going to let this drip for, well, until it starts dripping. Sometimes I wait 15-20 minutes, and then that is enough. Sometimes I have to wait a little longer. It kind of depends on how warm the engine oil is. So if it's hot, it's going to flow a little easier, so it's going to come out faster. If it's very thick and cold, it may take a lot longer. So our stream is slowed down, but it's still pouring out, so we're going to give it some time. All of our oil has drained, and now that we've got a new crush washer installed on our drain plug, we're going to snug this down. You don't have to make it tight, just make sure it's snug. Make sure it won't leak. And while our oil was draining, I went ahead and made us a little cover here for the oil filter when we take it out, and hopefully not cover and coat the CV axle. I don't really think it does that much damage because, well, I'm sure Honda would have thought of that, but it's less cleanup, so I think it's gonna be easier. We're gonna keep our container of oil down here so that if any oil does come all the way down, it will just get caught here and not pull up here or get on the ground. To tackle this job, we're gonna use these oil filter removals. I have two because one is smaller than the other. This may work, and if not, we can use this one. All it does is grab over the oil filter. As you turn, it gets tight, and then you turn it loose. So let's give it a shot. This one's a little bit more difficult because of the CV axle getting in the way, so we're gonna try and see if we can get to it anyways. Large tool didn't work. I ended up using the small one, and this is why it comes in handy to let the engine cool, because I've got my hand right here in front of the exhaust. The engine has an engine mount that's bolted here, and I went over that, put the tool over that, looped it over the oil filter, and now it spins freely. So I should, after a turn or two, be able to loosen it by hand. All right, so I've got it turning here. If I can get quick, none of it will roll down my shirt, but it happens. Oh, there's our oil coming down. I'm not the biggest fan of this design, but oil filter's got a filter. It's threading the rest of the way out, and most of the oil was caught by the paper towel, just a bit dripped through. I got it out. We're just gonna pour some of that excess oil out of there, and we're just gonna set that to the side. Now that we've got our oil filter out of the way, we're gonna just clean up a little bit. All the oil that's spilled on the frame and the plastic. Make sure that the oil you took out of your car is properly disposed of. It's really handy to keep a couple containers, especially from old oil containers, that you can just fill up with the old oil. You can usually take these to an auto parts store and they will recycle it for you for free, so no need to go too far. I will usually put a dirty paper towel over it and close it up. That way I can differentiate between the old bad oil and the good oil. Don't want to use old oil in an oil change unless you really want to. So here's our old 10,000 mile oil filter and our new 0 mile oil filter. We're gonna make sure that the seal is still in place on this one. Sometimes this seal, this black seal, goes around the oil filter to help seal the oil. It can get stuck in the engine on that mating surface. So when you're taking off, just make sure you still see that seal. You don't want to double seal, and by that I mean have one seal there and then put this one right in front of it, and it will do a good job of sealing. To lubricate the new one, we're just going to get some of this old oil and just put it on the seal. Never put it in dry. All we have to do now is just the opposite of what we did. Start tightening it in. And you don't have to tighten this with the tool that we use to remove it. That's only used to remove the oil filter. All we have to do is just hand tighten it and make sure it's on there snug. That's good, okay. So it's on there snug. We've got our drain plug with a new crush washer tightened up, and we've got our oil filter snug in place. So everything that we need to do down here is complete. We just have to go up top, lower the vehicle, set it level, and fill it with oil. Gone ahead and removed our jack stands, as well as the bricks and pieces of wood on the back tires. Make sure you haven't left anything under the vehicle or in the way of the tires. Make sure that you've ensured you've got all your tools, all your bolts are tightened, everything that needs to be in place is in place. And once you're ready, lower the vehicle. So like I mentioned, our engine calls for 5W30. I'm going with a full synthetic blend because that's what I've been putting in this car for the past 90,000 miles. The engine oil capacity of this engine is 4.4 quarts. That's including the oil filter. This is a 5-quart container, so we're going to put it up to 4.4, check our oil, and then go from there. We've got our funnel to make things a little easier. Pouring the fluid with the container sideways seems to work better for most people because the fluid comes out nice and smoothly, opposed to doing it like this and it plops out. So we have 4.4 quarts in the engine. I'm gonna give it a moment or two to let the engine oil get to the bottom. That way we can get a proper reading with the dipstick. So let's see where we're at. So right now it's showing that we're at kind of that minimum line. We're gonna put some more oil in until we get it up to that maximum dot. Since the oil is new, it's kind of hard to see, but right now it's right under that top mark. Now that we have sufficient oil in the car, we're gonna jump into the cockpit, start it up for about 2 seconds and let the oil flow into the oil filter, check the level again and add as needed. Now what should have happened is the oil should have dropped down on our dipstick. So right now you can clearly see that we're under that bottom mark, so we're gonna have to add a lot more oil to it. I just realized that this 5-quart container is platinum full synthetic, 5W30, and this 1 quart is platinum high mileage, 5W30. I don't know if that makes a difference. It's rated at the correct level, it is full synthetic. My car does have a lot of miles. Honestly, it shouldn't make that big of a deal. We're so close. It's right there, and because I'm so OCD, perfect, right where we need to be. You could have gotten away just fine with where it was at. As long as there's oil here between the minimum and the maximum, it's perfectly fine. The way I discover if an engine is burning oil is if I lose oil. This also applies to an engine that's leaking oil. The same thing can happen down here, but if I burn or lose oil, I am now under that minimum line. So if I'm up here and I lose a little oil, my engine can still operate just fine, but that also gives me a clear indication that there's an issue somewhere. And just like that, we are done with everything we needed to do. We have forgotten nothing. Wait. 8mm. Bolt. Extension. Bolt. Bolt. Hidden bolt. Big extension. Ew. Make sure to tighten to not too tight foot-pounds. Okay, now we're done. And this is disgusting. This is what happens if you don't change your air filter for 90,000 miles. If you got to the end of the video, you successfully changed the oil out of your car. If it's a Honda, I'm glad it's gonna be on the road more. If it's anything else, cool. I know there are a lot of people online that make videos just like this, how to change your oil and air filter. It's something so simple, but I wanted to at least share my experience changing the oil out on my 2004 TSX and encourage you guys who don't do it already to try it out. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like, really appreciate that. If you have anything to share, any questions, write down below. Check out my other videos if they're relevant to you, and look forward to anything else that I post out in the future. So stay subscribed for that. Ew. Oh, it fell on the engine. Holy crap.